Yep, it's a Sony. It's a clock radio by Sony that I paid that much for. Probably a little bit too much. Actually, I didn't really pay that. I exchanged something for it. Let's see, it says Digital 24 AM FM digital clock radio. I love how it says digital in two places. This is what the front controls look like, or the controls. You can tell it's getting kind of late. Here's a speaker. I'd say maybe a 2-inch speaker. Look at the bottom. You can see the antenna, the power cord, and battery backup. It's model number ICF-C16W. 5 watts. Doesn't have a date on it, but I presume probably either the late 1980s or early 1990s, considering the styling of that one up there and the similar model numbers. The styling's pretty similar. And something that this thing has that's very unique that you've probably already seen glimpses of is the vacuum fluorescent display, which is actually in pretty usable shape. That's it on the low setting. Switch it over to high. Here are the other controls. Of course, I'm not going to be keeping this, and there's only one reason why. There's a problem with this unit that we are going to take a look at in this video. And the problem is not caused by this unit purely being old. It's caused by the previous owner being completely negligent, being a wizard of sorts, thinking that they know what they are doing when inside such a unit, when in fact they really do not. I turn the radio on, lower the volume, because of course it is 2:30 in the morning. I'm moving the tuning knob, and nothing's happening. You will notice that the tuner doesn't appear in here. There's supposed to be a tuning thing with a little red dot on it, but I didn't get it back in the right place when I put it back together. I've already taken this apart and tried to investigate why the tuner doesn't work, and determined that it was in fact an error with the previous owner. Look at how sharply this display dims when you turn the radio on. It's kind of interesting. I wonder if it does the same thing in high mode. Let's see. Let's put it into alarm set mode to stop the blinking and then try it again. Yes, it does. It might not be noticeable on camera, but I can see it. You can certainly see it in the low brightness mode. The speaker sounds pretty acceptable. Sounds like it would have decent bass, treble response. Oops, that's not the right switch. That's the switch I wanted. So there it is in FM mode. Just get some white noise. Can't tune it, obviously. I want to just set the time. You actually have to push this button up here and put it into the time set mode, because otherwise you can't actually get it into time set. So we can do that and set the hour, both forwards and backwards. Same thing with the minute. Unfortunately, you are not apparently able to push and hold, and apparently it also doesn't really like that. Go ahead and set the alarm and we'll have the alarm go off. Like that. Oh, the radio's on too. That's not too bad. The reset button does work. I find it interesting that it's got an alarm indicator on the display, but yet they felt the need to put an external. Sony product. I'll never understand it. Okay, let's take it apart. Alright, camera's on the tripod. This is relatively easy to do. There are 3 screws here and 4 screws here. They're different types. Of course, it's a Sony product. You do need to be careful with the back, however, because basically the entire unit is going to come out as one piece. we'll see the problem practically instantly, as soon as I get the back off. You can pull up on both sides carefully. There we go. Like I said, instantaneously the problem becomes obvious. Can't disconnect that ribbon cable. But take a look at the tuner here. See if you can spot the problem. Other than this being broken, which is technically my fault. It's supposed to ride along this. That's the correct way for it. But do you notice all of this cabling mess? All this wiring? It is not correct at all. Somebody has been in here, and it's fairly obvious that somebody has been in here. I don't know what their ultimate goal was, but they tried to mess around with this, and it failed, and has now left me with a completely non-functional tuner. There is no tuner here. It's gone. There's no pressure pushing the tuner, and nothing is happening at all. I can still tune it, theoretically. Just like that. That isn't the problem. There's not really much I'm going to be able to do with this. I mean, sure, I could restring it, but restringing dials, restringing dial cords, tuning cords, whatever you want to call these things, is one of the most tedious things you will ever do in your life. I've done a couple of them, and exhausted centuries and centuries worth of swear words. You know, profanity allowance, trying to get that done. The speaker, by the way, is actually supposed to sit in this little cone here. It's a pretty ingenious design. But, unfortunately, the only thing that really works about this is the alarm and the vacuum fluorescent display. So there's not really much going for it. If it were cheaper, I would probably keep it around and maybe restring it. But at the same time, I also really don't think that restringing this is a beneficial idea, because it's not really worth anything. It is on, as you can see. So we'll put it in tuner mode, and there you can see the red LED. That's what it's supposed to look like, and that's supposed to move across. I could see if I could manually tune it to a station. That might be an interesting thing to do. Alright, here's the speaker for you. That's not it. Oh, it's on the side here. Alright, so, with a little bit of some better lighting, here we can see the mess that is this tuning wire that I've actually made worse by trying to show to you. I mean, it's everywhere. I think this right here is supposed to be wound around this, but it's not. And that's so thin, I don't even know if I could get it in there. Yeah, I'm pretty positive that this is supposed to be wound around this pulley here. But there's like no tension. In fact, there's like basically no wire on this at all. I've removed it mostly from the tuner too, because I tried to tune it, of course. But yeah, this is messed up. Do I even have the... Okay, it looks like the spring is in... The spring is actually intact. Come on, if I could get some zoom on that. The spring is actually intact in there. So I could rewind this if I really wanted to. But I'm getting my hands covered in wheel grease. That's not really good. Winding this is probably going to be a nightmare, considering all of the little delicate components that go along with it. So I think that just turned into it'll just turn into an episode of annoyance, and I don't really want to deal with that. So I'm really pretty positive that this is supposed to wrap around that. I don't even know how it would have come off. That's weird. That is really strange, because this piece here would have had to come off in order for that to come off. So somebody has definitely been in here playing around with things that they really should not have been playing around with. People, if you don't know what you're doing, or cannot exercise the care needed to do it, then don't do it. This thing could have been a perfectly good radio. There's really nothing wrong with it, other than that. And it's a pretty big problem. Because now basically none of the functions work. How annoying is that? To have a clock radio and not be able to use the radio. That's really annoying. So, that sucks. I'm guessing that there's not really much I can do about it either, except for restring the cord. Actually, that's really the only course of action here, is restring the cord or put in a new tuner, and I'm not putting in a new tuner. I don't even think you could. I think that it's pretty well proprietary, unless you pulled it out of another Sony unit. It's really too bad, because this thing would have been really nice to have around with the vacuum fluorescent display. It's not something you see in Sony equipment often. They made some. In fact, they made a unit similar to that, which had a VFD in it. But they're not very popular, I guess, because they were more expensive. So, people just went through the LED ones. Oh well. Score turn strikeout, I suppose. Those things seem to be relatively common lately. That is what it looks like with the dial in place. This is what it's supposed to look like. And of course, as you move this, that would move across.